Hey there, this is Malorian, and this is the Orc Tactical Team, and today we have one that I feel kind of passionate about because it actually pulled me out of bed. I was all ready to go to bed, and then all of a sudden I looked at some comments from my video, and I said, wow, I gotta go and I gotta comment on this right away. Now, of course, for those who can actually read the title of the video you clicked on, it's all about the Wild Riders. So, just a couple of days ago, just yesterday, I went and I did the Wood Elf book review. Now, in there, I was talking about the Wild Riders, and this was basically my summary of them. Okay, here's the Wild Riders. They got new models. They have Frenzy. I don't like Frenzy because it's going to break your control when you need to be controlling the movement phase. They're crap. Moving on. Well, not crap. I don't like them. So let's move on. And I got all these messages saying, Malorian, you are so wrong. Wild Riders are the business. This is going to be all about the Wild Riders. You are so wrong. It is hilarious. And I really got to go and talk about these because coming from an orc background, yeah, I have some insight into this. Plus, coming from the elf background as well. I've done my fair share of wood elf stuff, of high elf stuff, and I see where these guys are going. Now, let's take a look at them, and we're going to first start from the other side. We're going to play devil's advocate, and we're going to tell you why Wild Riders are awesome. So let's start from this here. They are very fast. These are the guys who are going to be movement 9. They are going to be getting into combat. No problem whatsoever. Once they get there, they get a lot of high strength attacks. You have the Rider, which has 1 attack base, devastating charge, and frenzy. So every single one of these riders who is strength 4 with a spear is going to have 3 strength 5 attacks, which are also armor piercing. And this is always strike first, probably re-rolling the hit, kapowie. Then you also have this Steed, which is also, getting a nice strength 4 attack. And then, of course, there's a whole thing about, frenzy. Is it going to go on to the Steed? We'll see how it goes in night. But, then there could be that attack as well. So these guys are coming out, and the damage potential from this unit alone is freaking awesome. So you got to be really looking at this unit here. And plus, sure, they have a really crappy save, but you could give them a shield too, right? So they're not really that bad. Yeah. Let's kind of go now from the other side and why I don't really like them. Or actually, let's give one more thing that's a pip of bonus to these guys. Well, one of the other real combat units you can compare them to is the Rangers. And you look at the Rangers, they're 11 points for 1 strength 5 attack. You go to the Wild Riders, and they're 26 points for those 3 strength 5 attacks on the charge. So points-wise, it's pretty good to go with these guys, right? This is where it's at. The problem comes from several sources. First of all, I completely still hang on that frenzy is a really big problem. Having to deal, it's leadership 9, right? Like leadership 9 is fantastic. But a lot of times in Wood Elves, you don't even have a BSB, so even if you have one, you might not be in range. And if you fail that, this really fragile unit is racing off after something you don't want it to. Once it does hit combat, it is forced to overrun or pursue. And that really takes a lot of control away from you. All your opponent needs to do is fly an eagle in front of them, move up whatever their chaff unit is, and you might be really fast, but you can't exactly be using your Wild Riders to get rid of their chaff, because like I said, you're forced to overrun, so they're controlling you. So in this whole pair-up, they can now run their chaff up to you, block you, and you're kind of screwed, because these guys are not cheap. At 26 points each, you are looking at a min unit that's going to be 130 points. And although that's kind of in close to that throwaway range, it is still a pretty good chunk of points, especially because most people probably won't be taking them in just blocks of 5, and it is a good chunk of change. Now, here's the other part of this here is they are really, really weak coming back the other way. I mean, like I said, you are only toughness 3 elves. You have, do you even have light armor? Hey, you have light armor. So you have light armor, you're on a steed, you have a 5 plus armor. And I mean, a lot of times a 5 plus armor is like having no armor because a lot of the stuff out there is really strong. You know, at least it's going to be strength 4 a lot of times. So you're looking to almost having no armor. Sure, you can add a shield on top of this, but you're making them more expensive. And that's just really, really bad. Past this as well, I mean, you can be really looking at their whole part where, what are you going to do with these guys, right? Are you just going to throw them in there and try and do some damage, and then all of a sudden, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, you're using them as throwaway, right? Maybe it's like the high elves, and it's like the sword masters, where, you know what, they're basically a throwaway unit. I'm just going to toss them into that unit over there, do some damage, and if they die, who really cares? They went and they did tons of damage, and now they weakened it for everybody else, right? Okay, now let's look at that idea. Let's look at when you're playing against the high elves. If you're ever playing a high elf player, where is your priority going? It is going to those sword masters. All your shooting, all your magic missiles are going after this unit to obliterate it before combat happens. And the thing is here is that these guys are going to have half as many wounds as that other unit, right? You're basically getting 10 sword masters for that same price for 5 of these guys. And yeah, they can't really soak up the hits. I mean, again, you can make them more expensive by putting the shields on there, but every single guy they lose is losing you a ton of attacks, and they're just getting less and less effective to the point where it's like, well, I might as well throw the last 2 in there because, okay, now they can kind of die or something. So it's just like, it's just really not there. Now, I said that I have some insight into this as being an Orc and Goblin player. And I do because we have this nifty little cav unit called the Savage Orc Boar Boy. Now, this Savage Orc Boar Boy, we can even change up now, and we can give him 2 choppas. So when we're charging in, this guy here is going to have 3 strength 4 attacks, and then as well, our little mount down the bottom is also going to be getting his big strength 5 attack as well. So it's a really nice strong unit. It gets in there, lots of attacks, and then it kind of dies. We're kind of on the same level. It has a 5 plus save. These guys have a 5 plus save. The Savage Orcs, they have a 6 plus ward. These guys have a 6 plus ward. And do you ever see the Savage Orc Boar Boys being used? No, you do not, because of the frenzy issues, because of the whole thing where they just get shot down and killed, and they're even toughness 4. You know, they're harder to kill than these elves, and they're cheaper, and they don't get taken. And it's just, that's why I don't really see it here. And it's also like in the comparison if we're looking to the Rangers. When we're looking there for how the points went across, we said, well, these guys are good for their points. But the problem is that you can't really multiply that. If you go and you take your horde of Rangers, you're looking at least the 30 attacks. If you can work it in with the forest or something in a spear, then it's 40 attacks, and that's pretty nice and awesome. If you deal with these guys and you have the same points going across, you can get 16 of them. And then it's like, well, how are you going to be deploying these guys? How many ranks? And the problem is if you're not in the front, you're basically useless because your mount's not attacking and you're not getting your full allotment of attacks. So it really is very difficult to get the same worth from them. Now, I do have to now go back and say there is some benefit to, let's say your plan is to run them as that one throwaway unit, right? You're going to take a unit of Wild Riders, just 5, no upgrades, no nothing, and their whole plan is to go in there and either do lots of damage to something, or maybe you want it to go after characters, right? You're going to say, where are your characters and units? Go get them, boys. I'm going to go and charge you, and I'm going to try and kill your BSB. And you know what? It's just 130 points. If that's how you want to run them, Okay, I can kind of understand. The other way where some people used to use the Wild Riders before is that they would use them as kind of like the finishing off unit. So that first of all, you're shooting at the guys, you're shooting at them, trying to whittle down their ranks, and by just at the time, like before they hit your battle line, boom, the Wild Riders come in and they finish them off. The problem is that needs control and positioning, and this frenzy thing does not give you control and positioning. It gives you risk. And why would you take risk when instead of taking this, like, let's say like if you had 2 units of these guys, right? Oh, I got 2 units of Wild Riders and they're going to be my finishers. Well, why would you take them and not just a tree man? The tree man is way more dependable. There's just other things here you can be putting those points into. So I understand these guys have lots of attacks. Please understand that Savage Orc Boar Boys also have lots of attacks, and they never see play because they get shot off the board. If you take these guys, sure, you might surprise your opponent the first time, get in there and do lots of damage, and then after that they'll say like, oh, so those are things I need to shoot. Pew pew. Okay, thanks for the points. And then all of a sudden you're going to have to reduce them down to just being a little group of 5 that's maybe your throwaway unit that they're going to try and aim for characters. And then what is your opponent going to do? They're just going to be putting the chaff right in front, knowing that you can't go around it. You're kind of stuck there saying, hey, am I going to charge or am I just going to get kind of beaten up and destroyed? So it's just, your fast cav, you could, I guess, if you get chaffed up, move around it that way. But first you're passing a leadership to not being forced to charge them. Then you're passing a leadership to, not be march blocked. It's just that frenzy. It's that frenzy that really, really kicks it in the nuts for me and just makes me not really want to look at them as an option. So there you have it. It's my views on the Wild Riders. It usually, usually for me, something that has lots of attacks, I'm all gun for, right? It's like, yeah, let's take them. But man, it's just when it's so many points per model and it's toughness 3 with almost no armor, like I say, an opponent that knows what they're doing, they're just going to take them off. So there you have it. There's the Wild Riders. If you like them, go ahead. But I got to say, I still don't like them. So that's the Orc Tactical team. We'll catch you later. Bye.